Hello, my name is Pastor Sidney. I'm the pastor here at the All Faith Church Liberation in Chicago. Now we've been meeting for years and internally, and we've done things outside in the community too. But this is one of the first times I've been motivated by something in the news to address, and I'm not sure how far this will go or if it will go much further than just this screen here. But I wanted to say something about the way the media is dividing in a culture war over trans folks and Easter. Because I think a very important thing that people don't remember is that Elohim is a plural word. The first word for God, and used 2,500 times in the Hebrew Bible, and used on the first few verses. Elohim is actually a plural. Now, if we look at Elohim, the name of God, the original name of God, now God has many names since, including Allah, and many names since, but his first name as we know it from the Hebrew Bible is Elohim. Elohim is a plural that can also be used, as in Exodus 12:12, to refer to the gods of Egypt. But in a way, God is speaking of himself or themselves as one. And if you look at the Quran, and in the Bible, when God speaks about God, God says we. So what is the gender of God originally? What is the pronoun to use for God? It is clearly they, not he. He came later. He came later as the he broke away from the they. It eventually becomes one with the she of the universe or the earth. And then we become a new they with God to bring God back into the company of all of us. So we become the Elohim eventually. But before we get to that, I think it's important to just realize that the person who rose from the dead on Easter, Jesus Christ, who is the he that comes from the she of Mother Mary, along with the he of God, these are all together becoming a they. Jesus was a persecuted person to the point of being crucified, much like trans people are now. And I don't see how our brothers and sisters in the Christian communities of America cannot honestly look at themselves in the mirror and realize that on the most holy day of the year, where the God of love triumphed over death, we should try to use that as a weapon against those who have, for a variety of reasons, been marginalized from our common culture. Trans people, in a way, are a sign that God is coming back into the world, that they is going to be something that will break up the comfortable binary we've been with for several hundred years, which, over the time of history, many cultures to this day have more than two genders. And our own culture has often recognized they as another pronoun. If you go back to a little before Shakespeare's time and Chaucer's time, this was used. All of this to say, I had to speak out as a pastor. I had to speak out as a preacher, and my community, urged me to speak out, to tell people out there in the world that we need to be more than just tolerant. We need to be loving. Loving of the ones who are supposedly our enemies, which means that I am challenged to love people who are transphobic and homophobic, but those people are challenged to love us, who are loving of all people, all God's people. Now, how do you do that in this world? We seem to have a culture war, which is literally mother forces and father forces fighting. You see the presidential race, the kind of values being pushed back and forth. And I, being a church person in the United States, refuse to tell you who to vote for. I would never do that because it's just not the right thing for churches to do. I believe in the separation of church and state because it allows the church to flourish and the state to do what it does without interfering with each other. If you combine them, well, you can look at the various countries that have tried to combine them, from the tyranny that England used to be that we had to overthrow, to the government of Iran that is, forcing people to be Islamic. There's many countries that have gone through these ideas that we should get rid of the separation between church and state. But the beautiful thing of this is, regardless of who becomes president or where the culture goes, churches can stand for the eternal values, which is love that destroys the hatred of the persecuted, like Jesus was persecuted, like his mother Mary, who had to answer at 13 years old or 14 years old, young child, who did not have a child with the person she was betrothed to, but had a child with God, and therefore could not answer the question who the Father was. This is who Jesus is. This is why we as Christians should be very proud to be Christian and not be afraid and not be, using venal attitudes to try to get back at people who are secular. We should be proud of the Christian message, which is the taking of the most marginalized person, the most downtrodden person, the most oppressed person, and putting him in the center. A man who, had no money and ended up crucified and ended up forgotten, perhaps. But then he was not forgotten, was he? He was not forgotten. Even for those brothers and sisters out there and siblings and comrades out there and family out there who may not agree that Jesus actually rose from the dead, his message rose from the dead. Otherwise, we would not still be talking about it. This is a good thing and a good season to celebrate, something we should be very proud of, something we should be very happy to share with each other, that there'd be a possibility of peace between the lion and the lamb, between the wolf and the fatling and the calf, between eventually God and the devil could even possibly come together, but certainly all of us in God's image could become one community, which would eventually make God a they again in his great circle from Elohim far away, finally getting with earth over the time of the Torah, and then the later prophets, and then the Christian Bible, and then the Holy Quran, and all the things we're writing about, because that's what we really need to continue this revelation. We need to continue this conversation with God so that we can be the they with him. So let us in this time period really appreciate the kind of God we have, a kind of God that would be humble enough to be a little baby and have us all be taking care of him so that he could rise up again and be fully human with us. How many other gods in history have been so kind as our God, to be so humble, to elevate one of us, a woman named Mary, who she could have been stoned to death for that. She could have been killed. This is the message that people went to the actual persecution with Rome, being thrown to the lions, literally. This is the thing that people kept in their heart, that they took the most downtrodden people, the slaves and the sex workers and the people who were homeless, the people who no one cared about, and they become the core of what the Christian message was back then. And we need to reaffirm that is our direction. We need to love the they. We need to love the he and the she too. We need to label all of us to be who we really are as God draws us to him and shows us how to be with each other in that expression of eventually we will all be God. So thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry this went on a little long. I didn't have a lot of it planned. I was going to talk about one of the things we talked about a few weeks ago, one of the readings. I'll be putting other things up, but I really appreciate that you've given me the time to come into your home and give you our position, which is that really God is plural and also one, and we are plural and also one. And we should not oppress people just because they're marginalized now. In fact, we should bring them to the center. We should be grateful to them and be grateful for our opportunity to show God's love to them and to each other. Thank you very much.